Hello again everybody, it's time for chapter 3 of our book, The Folk of the Faraway Tree. Now last time we read, I asked you to think about whether you had felt like any of the characters in the story and if you could remember a time when you'd felt that way, so hopefully you were able to do that. Now what I'd like you to do today, this chapter is all about some of the characters in the Faraway Tree, and what I'd like you to do, using the description and the adjectives in the book, I'd like you to see if you can draw a picture of one of the characters for me, and maybe you could label that picture with some of the adjectives. So let's see which characters you might be able to draw. So our chapter today is called Connie Meets a Few People. I don't want to see any more of the horrid people who live in the tree, wept poor Connie. But Joe took her firmly by the hand and pulled her up the broad bough to where a yellow door stood open in the tree. In the doorway stood the prettiest little fairy you ever saw. She had hair that stood out round her head like a golden mist, as fine as silk. She held out her hand to Connie. Poor child, did you get caught in Dame Washalot's water? She's been washing such a lot today, and the water's been coming down all day long. Let me dry you. Connie couldn't help liking this pretty little fairy. How dainty she was in her shiny dress, and what tiny feet and hands she had. Silky drew her into her tidy little house. She took a towel from a peg and began to dry Connie. The others told her who she was. Yes, I know, said Silky. We're going up to Moonface's house for dinner. He said he would like to ask Mr. What's-his-name too, but I don't expect he'll come, because I heard him snoring in his chair as usual a little while ago. Mr. Who? Said Connie. Mr. What's-his-name, said Silky. He doesn't know his name, nor does anybody else, so we all call him What's-his-name. We've tried and tried to find out what his name is, but I don't expect we shall ever know now, unless the land of know-it-all comes. Then we might go up there and find out. You can find anything out in the land of the know-it-alls. Oh, said Joe, thinking of a whole lot of things he would love to know. We'll go there when it comes. Suddenly there came a curious noise down the tree, a clanking and jingling and crashing and banging. Connie looked scared. Whatever would happen next? It sounded as if 100 saucepans, a few dozen kettles, and some old odds and ends of dishes and pans were all falling down the tree together. I wonder which character it's going to be. Then a voice came floating down the tree, and the children grinned. 2 bucks for a bookworm, 2 butts for a goat, 2 winks for a winkle, who can't sing a note? What a very silly song, said Connie. Yes, isn't it, said Joe. It's the kind the old saucepan man always sings. It's his to song. Every line but the last begins with the word to. Anyone can make up a song like that. Well, I'm sure I don't want to, said Connie, thinking that everyone in the Faraway Tree must be a bit crazy. Who's the saucepan man, and what's that awful crashing noise? Only his saucepans and kettles and things, said Beth. He carries them round with him. He's a dear. Once we saw him without his saucepans and things around him, and we didn't know him. He looks quite different. A very extraordinary person now came into Silky's tiny house, almost getting stuck in the door. He was covered from head to toe with saucepans, kettles and pans, which were tied around him with string. They jangled and crashed together, so everyone always knew when the saucepan man was coming. Connie stared at him in amazement. His hat was a very big saucepan, so big that it almost hid his face. Connie could see a wide grin, but that was about it. Who's this funny creature? Said Connie in a loud and rather rude voice. You can see here Saucepan Man in his big hat, saucepan hat, and these are some of the things that he's got tied round him. Now, the Saucepan Man was deaf, and he didn't usually hear what was said. But this time he did, and he didn't like it. He tilted back his saucepan hat and stared at Connie. "Who's this dirty little girl?" he said in a voice just as loud as Connie's. Connie went red. She glared at Saucepan Man. "This is Connie," said Joe. He turned to Connie. "This is Saucepan, a great friend of ours," he said. "We've had lots of adventures together." "Why is she so dirty?" said Saucepan, looking at Connie's ink-stained clothes and dirty face. "Is she always like that? Why don't you clean her up?" Connie was furious. She was always so clean and dainty and well dressed. How dare this horrid clanking little man talk about her like that? "Go away," she said angrily. "Yes, it's a very nice day," said the Saucepan Man politely, going suddenly deaf. "Don't stay here and stare," shouted Connie. "I certainly should wash your hair," said the Saucepan Man at once. "It's full of soap suds." "I said don't stare," cried Connie. "Mind that stare," said the Saucepan Man, looking round. "I can't see any." Didn't know there were any stairs in the faraway tree. Connie stared at him in a rage. "Is he crazy?" she said to Joe. Joe and the others were laughing at this peculiar conversation. Joe shook his head. "No, Saucepan isn't crazy. He's just a bit deaf. His saucepans make such a clanking all the time that the noise gets into his ears and he can't hear properly, so he keeps making mistakes." "That's right," said the Saucepan Man, entering into the conversation suddenly. "Cakes, plenty of them, waiting for us at Moonface's." "I said mistakes," said Joe, "not cakes." "But Moonface's cakes aren't mistakes," said Saucepan Man earnestly. Joe gave it up. "We better go up to Moonface's," he said. "It's 4:30. "I hope that awful Saucepan Man isn't coming with us," said Connie. Incredibly, Saucepan heard what she said, and he looked angry. "I hope this nasty little girl isn't coming with us," he said in his turn, and glared at Connie. Now, said Silky, and patted the Saucepan Man on one of his kettles. "Don't get angry. It only makes things worse." "Purse? Have you lost it?" said the Saucepan Man anxiously. "I said worse, not purse," said Silky. "Come on, let's go. Connie's dry now, but I can't get the ink stains out of her dress." They all began to climb the tree again, the Saucepan Man making an appalling noise. He began to sing his silly song. "2 bangs for a firework, 2... "Shh, be quiet," said Silky. "You'll wake Mr. What's-his-name. He's fast asleep. He went to bed very late last night, so he'll be tired. We won't wake him. We'll be dreadfully squashed inside Moonface's house anyhow. Creep past his chair quietly. Saucepan, try not to make your kettles clank together." "Oh, yes, lovely weather," agreed Saucepan, mishearing again. They all crept past. Saucepan made a few clatters, but they didn't disturb What's-his-name, who snored loudly and peacefully in his chair on the broad bough of the tree outside his house, his mouth wide open. "You'd expect people would pop things in his mouth if he leaves it open like that," said Connie. "People do," said Joe. "Moonface put some acorns in once." What's-his-name was very angry. He really was. It's a wonder he doesn't get soaked with Dame Rochelotte's water, but he doesn't seem to. He always puts his chair well under the big branch. They went on up the tree. In the distance they saw Dame Washalot hanging out some clothes on boughs. "They'd blow away if she doesn't get someone to sit on them," said Silky to Connie. "So she pays the baby squirrels to sit patiently on each bit of washing she does until it's dry, and then she can take it in and iron it." They saw the line of baby squirrels in the distance. They looked sweet. Connie wanted to go nearer, but Joe said no. They really must go to Moonface's, because he'd be tired of waiting for them. At last they came almost to the top of the tree. Connie was amazed when she looked down. The faraway tree rose higher than any other tree in the enchanted wood. Far below them waved the tops of the other trees. The faraway tree was really wonderful. "Here we are at Moonface's," said Joe, and he banged on the door. It flew open and Moonface looked out. His big round face one large smile. Can you see this is Moonface's house? And Moonface with his big round face. "I thought you were never coming," he said. "You are late." "We've brought this dirty little girl," said Saucepan, and he pushed Connie forward. Moonface looked at her. "She does look a bit dirty," he said, and smiled broadly. "I suppose she got into trouble with the angry pixie and got some of Dame Washalot's water on her too. Never mind. Come along in and we'll have a good meal. I've got some hot, cold goodies." "Whatever are they?" said Connie, and even the others hadn't heard of them. They all went into Moonface's exciting house. It was quite extraordinary. In the very middle was a large hole with a pile of coloured cushions by it. Round the hole was Moonface's furniture, all curved to fit the roundness of the tree trunk. There was a curious curved bed, a curved sofa and a curved stove, and chairs all sat around the tree trunk inside. "It's very exciting," said Connie, looking round. "What's that hole in the middle?" Nobody answered her. They were too busy looking at the lovely food that Moonface had put ready on the curved table. They wanted to know what the hot, cold goodies were like. They knew pot cakes and Google buns, but they didn't know hot and cold goodies. "What's this hole?" demanded Connie again, but no one bothered about her. She felt so curious that she went to the edge of the strange hole and put her foot in it to see if there were steps down. She suddenly lost her balance and stepped right into the hole. She sat down with a bump. And then, oh my goodness, she began to slide away at top speed down the hole that ran from the top of the tree all the way to the bottom. "Where's Connie?" said Joe, suddenly looking round. "Not here, that's good," said Saucepan. "Oh, she must have fallen down the slippery slip," said Silky. "Oh, poor Connie. She'll be at the bottom of the tree by now. We'll have to go down and get her." And that's the end of chapter 3. So remember what I asked you to do. See if you can use one of the descriptions in that chapter to draw a picture of one of the characters for me, or maybe you could even draw a picture of the inside of Moonface's house because it described it really well. Thanks for listening to my story, and I'll read chapter 4 to you soon. Bye everybody, miss you.